and we'll have to see if these players are going to be using it.
All right, we've talked about the gear. We've talked about these two teams. Now we want to hear what you guys have been saying. Jump in the Twitch chat right now, and you can vote. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Some players that we haven't gotten to see in such a long time on the main stage. The gates are now open.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to see Hydra, but Hydra's on the bench. Donnie going to be substituting in, playing a peculiar double monk composition with Flynn on that Frost Mage. Let's see if they can penetrate the defense of Team Bronze Troll.
I feel like on paper, Team Bronze Troll right now, they have an advantage. With that Destruction Warlock, they're going to be able to provide a lot of burst, especially with that Infernal that has been dropped down. When you see the Destruction Warlock use that cooldown, you can expect a big damage.
You can already see a Maledict being activated on Flynn. Donnie responds. Will it be enough to keep him going? It seems to be the case for now as Donnie leaves crowd control and immediately retreats to safety. Both Flynn and Donnie trying to hide and duck for cover, but he gets knocked back into line of sight. Beautiful Ring of Peace. Infernion raining down destruction, an early ice block forced, and Team Bronze Troll get a lead.
Yeah, Team Bronze Troll, their objective is to just slow down Flynn, stop him from casting Frostbolt, stop him from dropping Blizzard, and not allow him to get those polymorphs off. If they can control Flynn, Team Bronze Troll will have an excellent advantage in this matchup.
Most certainly, Donnie still locked down in crowd control. Great crowd control from Team Bronze Troll throughout this first match. This could just be it as Flynn tries to get to safety on dangerously low health. Rezus in hot pursuit. That Temporal Shield, a race against the clock, will manage to be a race that Flynn can win as Donnie gets to safety and tops him off. But Team Bronze Troll have been in complete domination through game one.
Yeah, the only advantage Team Bronze Troll has right now is the mana advantage. Lotar now into some crowd control, and Infernion getting bursted down for the first time in this game. F2K and friends looking to strike back just a little bit, but Deathstroke Warlocks are so tanky, it's going to be difficult for F2K and friends to really penetrate through those defensives.
And we see at this point Donnie trading out more defensive cooldowns, but still falling behind as Rezus is just tearing into him, forced to polymorph and retreat back behind the pillar, but we've seen nothing but F2K and friends run away. That's all they've been able to mount. No offense, just simply try to stay alive. And you're not going to win a game simply by just trying to stay alive. Will they be able to find an opportunity to strike back is the question underneath all of this pressure.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Donnie, he's going to have to push in. I don't think Flynn needs to be looking for polymorphs in this matchup. They need to rely on that incapacitate that Trilly and Donnie have onto Lontar, and then they can get some burst rolling on Infernion, because if Flynn is using his blinks offensively, he's pushing in, looking for the polymorphs, and he gets denied on those, it's just such a huge waste of the mobility the Frostmage has.
All right, Rezu's making a preemptive play, activating that diffuse magic right before the burst window so that he could just stay aggressive and not fall behind. You can tell that Team Bronze Troll have this matchup nailed down, but in the meantime, crowd control has been secured onto Lontar. Infernion alone here for a moment. Earthen Wall Totem connected, but gets knocked out for a moment. Infernion should start to stabilize. They do manage to get a polymorph, but Flynn is on the back foot. He's caught in midfield. Donnie locked in crowd control. This could be the second ice block forced early on. No, Donnie denies and keeps the match going. That ice block, a very important cooldown to hold on to as long as possible.
Yeah, so Donnie, he's actually opting to use the Song of Chi-Ji talent in this matchup. So Donnie, he can push in, he can get the incapacitate on Lontar, and then use the Song of Chi-Ji to extend that crowd control chain onto Lontar and allow them to get a little bit more uptime on Infernion, get some damage out. So it's really going to be up to Team Bronze Troll. They have to shut down that Chi-Ji, in addition to the polymorphs coming in from Flynn if they want to keep Infernion alive.
Beautiful crowd control by Infernion. Spell lock into a full fear, into a capacitator totem, and Team Bronze Troll are making F2K friends look like they're amateurs here in game number one. F2K and friends need to find a way to turn this around because I see absolutely no openings for them.
Yeah, they haven't got a single defensive cooldown from Team Bronze Troll besides that Earthen Wall Totem, and that really isn't that big of a cooldown to be pulling out. Flynn, once again, he's going to be using the Temporal Shield, trying to mitigate some of this damage. Gets topped off there by Donnie. Double leg sweep coming in from Trille, looking for some burst damage on Infernion once again, but Infernion, he should be completely fine. Flynn just having to play defensive. He's just been running away the entire game, just trying to avoid Infernion, which you really can't blame him. Trading with the Deathstroke Warlock isn't necessarily the smartest idea. These Chaos Bolts do huge amounts of damage, and Flynn gets low, but the Life Cocoon once again saves the day.
These Ring of Peace placed by Rezus are perfect. They knock back Flynn right into line of sight Infernion, and he can just nail Chaos Bolts straight to Flynn's face, and every time that happens, we see major defensive cooldowns forced. A couple more opportunities. opportunities. It could just be it here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Bronze Troll in complete domination in game one as Donnie is desperate. How much longer can Flynn stay alive? That Maledicts is going to soak up a lot of healing. Another spell lock secured by Infernion. He's basically 100% interrupt rate in game one, followed up by a Shadow Fury. Perfect timing into the leg sweep. Amazing crowd control. Maledict connects. Lava bursts are flying in, and Team Bronze Troll are looking like they're going to walk away with this. Flynn hangs on. Donnie rolls away, and somehow, someway, F2K friends, they managed to just stay alive.
Well, although Donnie's getting crowd control, Trilly has been spamming out the heals onto Flynn over and over. But while Trilly's doing that, he's not getting any counter pressure. So he's kept the team alive, which is good. But really, F2K and friends, they need to find some sort of offense in this game. Team Bronze Troll in complete control.
All right, we can see the Touch of Death activated for both Windwalker Monks. Potential big burst coming in here as they set up a swap to Lontar. Are they going to pull off the miracle? Despite being behind the entire game, one opportunity could be it. Lontar denies, doesn't crack under the pressure. Now leading the charge for his team, getting a win shear on Donnie. Infernion trying to make his way over. Flynn manages to get control. Donnie rolls to safety, and Donnie surprisingly has a mana advantage over Lontar. If they can somehow keep this going into dampening, it might be a win condition for them.
Yeah, we are at 5% dampening right now. I think Lontar, his mana should be able to stabilize, especially if he stops with the offensive purges. That's likely what has put him a little bit behind, trying to actually end out the game. Flynn now, Cold Snap has just come back up, so he does have another Ice Block available. Choosing not to use it just yet. He wants to use that as soon as possible, unless he's trying to wait another minute and a half for that first Ice Block to come up once again. That's a bit of a risky play, but we'll have to see if it pays off. Now, Team Bronze Troll all rotting down a little bit. Lontar able to stabilize. Flynn once again on the back foot, trying to kite away. Like I said, he does not want to be trading damage with Infernion. He's doing his best to just line of sight, get away, and allow Trille to have that uptime on Infernion to do most of the damage.
Triple setup by Trille, but preemptively activated defense by Lontar denies any sort of damage from Trille. And I think it's important to note that this is the first game of 2019 in the AWC tournament circuit. So these teams might just be getting their feet in the water, trying to get comfortable here in game number one as we move deeper into dampening. Mana now equal on both sides, and it's not looking too good for either, but the crowd control has been perfect from Team Bronze Troll. Good follow-up as they set up onto Flynn, knocking him into line of sight with that Ring of Peace. Great combination. Flynn blinks to safety. Well-timed Temporal will keep him alive for now, but another spell lock secured by Infernion. Flynn and Donnie in retreat mode once again, start to finish, but Lontar sees the opportunity. If you're simply going to run away from the fight, I'm going to sit over here and drink, which allows Lontar to regenerate his mana back to full, which he uses for powerful healing spells. And since he has full mana now and Donnie is almost out of it, Lontar is going to be able to keep this game going a lot longer.
Yeah, Infernion actually moves his gateway. He gateways in looking for the Shadow Fury. He doesn't manage to find it on Donnie. Flynn getting bursted down a little bit right now as dampening gets higher and higher. Trille's damage on that Windwalker Monk is going to become more effective onto Infernion, especially if Flynn can do a good job getting away. F2K might find a win condition later on. Infernion getting locked out. He has no gateway. Ice Block going to be forced out onto Flynn, but he managed to hold on. He actually has the Cold Snap back up as well. So 2 Ice Blocks going to be available for Flynn, or 1 more after that one fades. Really getting swapped to now. Rez is turning his attention onto him, making sure both members of F2K are under fire.
Yeah, they've realized that Trille is really the only one that's disrupting the fight and staying in it, so they're going to switch their attention to him and try and find an opportunity there to kill him. But now immediately going back to their main target, Flynn, catching him into a leg sweep as Rezus leads the charge. Flynn retreats once again. We need a lap counter here, Rich. How many times do you think they've ran around this arena? It feels like maybe 10, maybe 20 at this point. They should maybe join a marathon after this game.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about this matchup. If Flynn just stands still, trades out Frostbolt into Infernion, who's casting Chaos Bolt, it's a losing matchup. So Flynn, he has to use the mobility he has on the Frost Mage, use the Blizzard, use, basically his cooldown damage spells like Comet Storm, like the Ice Nova, to burst down Infernion. And then when those aren't available, you don't trade, you run away, you line of sight to avoid as much damage as possible. But at this point in dampening, those Frost Mage burst cooldowns, that burst damage does become very effective. Flynn needs to be careful, though. If Infernion can get a whole bunch of Chaos Bolts off here, it's going to be very difficult for Donnie to recover.
Flynn went for an aggressive maneuver there and managed to pull Unending Resolve, but if you go toe-to-toe with a Destruction Warlock in midfield and no pillar to line of sight, you don't win that head-to-head, and Flynn is now forced to retreat away once again, but they've managed to overextend. Lontar and Rezu stack them up and set up for another swap. How much damage do they have? Lontar denies with Earthen Wall Totem. That's going to absorb a lot of damage and allow his team to stay in the fight, and that drink that he got earlier has secured him still a significant mana lead. They've got crowd control. Flynn's all alone as he's desperately trying to get out of line of sight of Infernion once again, but Rezus ultimately can take him out if Donnie runs out of mana. Lone Tar keeps the chain going a bit longer. Flynn's too far away. Donnie's caught in midfield. Flynn has to come back to dispel Hex. Donnie rolls over, but there's an interrupt, and he nails it again. Infernion with amazing spell locks throughout this match. They get the final ice block potentially of the match. I don't think we're going to see another one. The defense has finally been cracked. The mana advantage is secured, and Team Bronze Troll should be able to walk away with this.
Yeah, this is looking very good for them. Deathcoil does come in from Infernion, looking for fear onto Trilla as well, just controlling him, not allowing him to get any damage rolling for F2K. Flynn still just line of sighting, running away. Donnie running on fumes in terms of mana. Full polymorph on Lone Tar, but Flynn is the one that's in trouble. That is the Temporal Shield. Can he hold on a little bit longer? Rezu's looking to close out the game, and he does at 31% dampening, putting the first point on the board for Team Bronze Troll.
And we saw Flynn on that back leg, one leg honestly, for quite some time. You hear Sid talk about running laps around the track, running around the arena. They were kind of hopping for quite some time, always in that place where they need to be defensive. Even think about that just a few minutes ago, before the second two ice blocks come off, it looked like Zico Flynn was going to drop.
Yeah, Flynn was down to about 1% with no ice blocks there at one point, but he managed to do some nice kiting and recover. And like Ven mentioned during the cast as well, it's very important for the mage to not stay out in the open and trade damage with that warlock. It's much better to use the fact that he's a mage, he's much more mobile, drag the monk to the other side, and then try to secure some CC that way, while that Destro warlock is going to be much more slower at catching up to the rest of the fight. But I got to give it out to Rezus. Rezus put on amazing pressure in this game. So many beautiful rings of pieces here, constantly pushing Flynn into the line of sight of Infernion, and Infernion as well. He needs an honorable mention here for those spell locks, doing a great job actually securing the kill on the back of one of them there. Really, really strong opener here.
But let's talk about F2K though, and we say, okay, they are playing defensively throughout the entirety of the game. They're playing just to stay alive longer in the game. You see those ice blocks come up again. Yes, they have some defensive tools in their back pocket, but Ven, how do they play to actually win? How do they create pressure of their own?
Well, their game plan, I think, is the best game plan they have with this composition. Like we kind of talked about, Flynn, he can't be trading damage. As a Frost Mage, you have burst damage, essentially, with your Comet Storm, with your Ice Nova, your Frozen Orb. When those are available, that's when you want to do burst. What you want to have, and what they're trying to do, is allow their Windwalker Trilla to have maximum uptime on Infernion. And unfortunately, as a Windwalker monk, you're not really going to be able to solo a Destruction Warlock until really late in dampening. So they're trying to extend the game, allow Flynn to just build up his damage, burst him down a little bit, and that's basically their win condition. They just need to keep repeating that process, and then hopefully they can land a kill on Infernion, because just trading damage, that's a losing battle for them.
And we could potentially see some things change now when we move a little bit deeper into the matchup. That, of course, was the blind pick. And before we do get any further in the series, Sid, for anyone who maybe is watching for the first time, has just forgotten everything over the past couple of months, how are all of our series going to look today?
All right, everybody. It's going to be in the Grand Arena on game number 1, that map we just saw every single time. And the compositions are blind pick, which means neither team knows exactly what's coming into that first match until they've jumped right into it, and at that point they can't change. If there's a problem, they leave, whatever. After that, the loser will then select their map. In this case, we see F2K and friends going to Ashamane's Fall, which is an interesting pick in general. But now Team Bronze Troll has the opportunity to lock in their composition, and then F2K and friends can counter if they have an option. I'm still not sure if they do. This map is a bit peculiar as well, because you would think that it favors the Destruction Warlock with a lot of open field. We're going to have to see what they've got in store for us. I would like to see Hydra come back onto the fight, at least just at some point, to see him play, because it's been so long, but maybe they feel it's not the best option.
That was my question for Zico. Is it time to break out the Hydra?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. It depends what the game plan is. If they bring out Hydra, then they get more offense in their arsenal, but they will lose that long game win condition. And all of a sudden, their win condition is going to become something along the lines of trying to have Hydra push in for those fears off the back of those incapacitates maybe from Trilla, and then try to set up long CC chains and take down Infernion that way. It's very, very hard to execute, especially when you are playing against another monk. So, I don't know. I don't think this is Hydra's match. I think when their backs are completely against the wall, we might see him, but I wouldn't pick him in just yet unless they also plan on switching that mage spec.
Okay, so we are going to see both of these teams opt into playing the same thing. It's not blind pick anymore. This is just what they think is best for this matchup when they're going head-to-head. And I have to ask, we just had Sid hit everybody with that refresher. But if you're sitting there and you've just been asleep since BlizzCon, are these the comps that you expect to see at all? I feel like just so much has changed at this point.
Well, I feel like for Team Bronze Troll, this is actually a very solid composition. Like we kind of talked about, Windwalker Monks have gotten some really solid buffs, as well as a Destruction Warlock. So the Windwalker and the Destruction Warlock together makes a lot of sense, and then you have the Restoration Shaman to support you. So what Team Bronze Troll is bringing to the table is a very solid composition. For F2K and friends, a little bit different. I think the Windwalker, he works with the Frost Mage, and I think the reason why they're bringing in Donnie is because Hydra, he does not have the late game potential, and I really don't see a Frost Mage and a Windwalker Monk closing out the game against a Destruction Warlock until deeper into Dampening. And with the Discipline Priest, that's sort of a vulnerability, especially as you move on to the late game. Sometimes you don't even get to the late game because Discipline Priests don't necessarily have the best mana regeneration.
So we talk about Warlocks and Monks. We talk about that synergy, throwing it under the microscope right now because we may see more of it today as well. Zico, how does this comp consistently win?
Well, it's going to be at the back of usually Dampening or those big Chaos Bolts that are going to be boosted from those Infernals. Whenever Infernions summon his Infernals, he's going to be able to do a lot more damage with each of those bolts, like we saw in the start of last game when they got Flynn's Ice Block. And they have a lot of interrupts. It's a comp that's built to outlast. And playing a mage into a Lock Shaman Windwalker is some of the most annoying thing that you can be faced with as a mage.
Exactly, and we know this is going to be an uphill battle right now for F2K. It seems like Bronze Troll may have the comp to carry this all the way to a 2-0.
Yeah, Team Bronze Troll basically know that Hydra and Flynn are kind of pillars on the team. They're going to be playing Mage and Priest, and this Destruction Warlock Windwalker comp can deal with both of those classes. They have the perfect answer to F2K and friends, so I'm curious to see how they manage to navigate through this match here on what is one of the largest maps in the pool. Are they going to try and bait Lontar into center field and set up a swap onto him? Are they just going to run laps like game one? Immediate burst, followed up by Team Bronze Troll, getting that life cocoon out of the way quite early on, and once again asserting dominance.
Yeah, this is a great start. You can see Donnie's actually activated the Way of the Crane, trying to get some healing out as he was interrupted. Manages to top off his team and will be able to easily with that cooldown, but it does cost a lot of mana. So potentially risking the late game advantage F2K might have. Lontar and Infernion taking a little bit of burst, but Flynn in the meantime forced into his first ice block.
Oh, Lontar is having a bit of a difficult time over there with Trill. Trille trying to get some pressure, forcing some major cooldowns from Lontar early on if he can keep it up, but it doesn't seem like he can. He's getting feared away with Infernion backing up Lontar. Flynn and Donnie retreating once again as we saw in game one. Rezu's in hot pursuit, but he's left Trille alone. We see a frozen orb. Flynn going crazy with that Ring of Peace, protecting him from the melee interrupt, getting knocked now by Rezu's. Good response. Lontar survives the attack with that Earthen Wall Totem. Trille going to switch to a different target that is not protected by its defense. Smart maneuver by Trille. Trille getting a lot more done here in game one. He's going to really have to put the team in his wheelbarrow for this match if he wants to carry the team.
Yeah, he's going to have to put out huge pressure. Flynn assisting him with the burst damage when he has it available, but other than that, just trying to survive. Polymorph spam onto Rezus, allowing Trille uptime onto Infernion, just keeping him away at all costs. If Infernion is casting Chaos Bolts, that is not a winning situation for F2K, so they just need to make sure that Infernion is snared across the map, out of line of sight, but now Infernion doing what I think he should, which is put some pressure out onto Trille. If he can't connect onto Flynn, make sure you're damaging at least the Windwalker Monk to force Donnie to use some mana.
It's such a peculiar situation. It's almost as if the Windwalker Monks are 1v1ing the Warlock and Mage respectively, with healers backing them up and ignoring everything else that's going on in the game. Trille trying to make some curious setups here onto Lontar, landing the double. Great positioning here. Donnie activates that Way of the Crane as they go for an all-in kill on Lontar. They get deflected by Infernion and completely shut down.
Yep, Flynn getting Shadow Feared, getting Mortal Coiled there by Infernion, shutting down all of that damage, like you said. Double leg sweep coming in from Rezus. Decent pressure onto Flynn, but he managed to Nova the Storm, Earth, and Fire from Rezus. That's going to be preventing some of the damage incoming. Donnie just trading out that life cocoon. It's a very short cooldown, 55-second cooldown, so as a Mistweaver Monk, you can sort of just trade that out when you think you're going to fall behind in a matchup or when big burst damage is coming to prevent a lot of that incoming pressure.
All right, Flynn in midfield, that's not where you want to be. He's forced to use Counterspell on Infernion's Chaos Bolt and deny damage. He was caught in an awkward position, but now that Counterspell threat isn't available for Lontar, so Lontar can get aggressive here. Crowd control onto Donnie. Flynn immediately answers with a well-timed Temporal Shield. His Temporal Shields have been the main reason he's able to even stay alive as long as he is. We need to give due credit where it is due, but Flynn once again by himself. Desperation. Donnie feared away. If Chaos Bolts come flying in here, it could be another ice block forced early on. Flynn's going to duck around the corner. Infernion trying to get line of sight, but just can't find the target as both teams begin to stabilize. Still Team Bronze Troll with a significant lead.
Trilly actually traded out his Touch of Karma, so he might be a target. There's a leg sweep, big damage coming in, but once again, the Life Cocoon saves the day from Donnie. Nicely done. He trades out the Life Cocoon, goes for the cast. He gets interrupted, but the interrupt really doesn't matter because you have that huge shield. So that was a good play from Donnie. Typical Mistweaver maneuver there, just sort of baiting out the interrupt, so now he can basically free cast, but he is into the full fear. Flynn once again, Temporal Shield, line of sighting, trying to avoid some damage. Shirley coming back to help him out a little bit. Rezus having a little bit too much uptime here. Flynn trying to line of sight once again, but Rezus, he's pushing in. He actually trades out the Touch of Karma as well. You can see Rezus, no Trinket, no Diffuse Magic, no Touch of Karma. Now this might be an opening that F2K can exploit.
Yeah, Donnie immediately ramping it up with a Ring of Peace out of Lontar's line of sight. Lontar moves forward to get there. Donnie rolls in. I'm curious if they're trying to stack Lontar up on the team, but Flynn is still just getting pressured. He doesn't want to have to trade this ice block. Trilly goes aggressive, but Flynn can't back him up. That leg sweep goes completely whiffed, and that's going to allow Team Bronze Troll a huge opportunity to strike back here with crowd control secured. Flynn once again alone in the midfield. That Maledict trinket soaking up a ton of healing. Donnie saves the day though with that Life Cocoon, and now Infernion on the back foot as Flynn finally throws some counter pressure his way.
Yeah, Flynn's been holding on to that Icy Veins the entire game. Normally we see Frost Mages, they just wait. Keep that as a threat in their back pocket until late into dampening when they can close out the game in just a few globals. So likely Flynn will hold on to that. Infernion has been using his offensive cooldowns, Dark Soul, throughout this match, trying to get some pressure rolling. Trilly still just all over Infernion. Infernion really having a difficult time connecting to Flynn in this matchup. He's been doing a good job making sure he's out of line of sight, keeping the snares on Infernion as he tries to waddle across the map. But we see Infernion, this is his moment to try to get some damage rolling with the Mortal Coil into Chaos Bolt spam. But Flynn once again blinks out of line of sight. Donnie still under crowd control. Can Rezus force out the second ice block onto Flynn? He's getting low, caught in midfield. And there it is. But Flynn, 33 seconds, he has that cold snap, so that's going to be a third ice block that he has available. They managed to hold on long enough.
I almost wonder if Infernion has actually missed a spell lock this game. I was thinking there, Donnie, you have to fake that spell lock. Are you going to be able to do it? Or, nope. Okay, and that's an ice block. So if he can't get through Infernion's spell lock, this is ultimately just going to be Team Bronze Troll's series, inevitably, unless they change it up. Great fear onto the way of the Crane. This is a well return for Infernion in tournament play here today. Their team looks to be devastating F2K and friends, and it may be a desperation time to pull Hydra in game 3 and try and reverse sweep, but as a Discipline Priest facing this composition, it looks pretty intimidating. If anyone could do it, it would be Hydra, and we'd like to see him come back, but at this point, F2K and friends, I'm not sure what hope they've got.
Yeah, Infernion looking to get aggressive. Drops out his Infernals. A lot of pressure on Flynn. He's caught in midfield with the Mortal Coil. He has the Cold Snap available. He's holding on to it once again, so opting not to trade that out just yet. Hopefully he manages to find that button when he needs it most, when he needs to get into that third ice block. See Rezus chasing him down once again, but Flynn out of line of sight. Rezus with a beautiful Ring of Peace, once again keeping Flynn in the action, putting out a lot of pressure with that Storm, Earth, and Fire. Infernion now in line of sight. Flynn getting lower. Cold Snap comes in. Ice Barrier. Is he going to have to trade out the ice block as well? Fear on Donnie. Certainly he will. Flynn playing a little bit greedy there. Manages to find the ice block in the nick of time, but now Donnie almost completely out of mana. This is not looking good for F2K.
We will want to say that Team Bronze Troll, their team's built around defense and locking the enemy team down and not allowing them to do anything. Team Bronze Troll are simultaneously doing that while completely crushing their opponents offensively with these spell locks into great crowd control chains, and Team Bronze Troll could be a dark horse in the lower bracket for sure. I would not want to go up against them based on their performance in these first 2 games. F2K and friends potentially have an opportunity here with no Gladiators medallions available. They go for desperation. They go after Lontar. Will he be able to handle the swap? Maledicts, he dispels it. He hangs on. Once again, great defense by Infernium. They go for a double Maledict. Flynn, though, on the back foot, can't stay aggressive. If he tries to, he's going to fall. Rezus gets dispelled. Lontar with great offensive play. Even lightning bolting. The bad manner lightning bolts from the Restoration Shaman could maybe cost him his life if he's not too cheeky here. But Flynn with no ice blocks left. A full fear secured. This should be game 2 for Team Bronze Troll. Unless Lontar throws the game, he's dipping down to about half. But Flynn, it will fall first. And Team Bronze Troll are just dominating.
I mean, it's Flynn just time and time again. Maybe that trinket comes in, saves him for a second, then the ice block comes out. Constantly just the man with the sight on him. Is it Rezus, though? Is he going to be the tempo maker throughout the entirety of this matchup?
Absolutely. Rezus is the aggressor. Rezus is constantly using all of his mobility to kind of just stay on top of Flynn as much as possible. And if he doesn't use his diffuse magic and his root breakers effectively, he will get crowd controlled in bad spots, and then Lontar is going to have to cross the map, leaving Infernium vulnerable. So Rezus got to do a good job, not overextend when he can't, and just apply that pressure time and time again, and he's been doing a great job with it so far. I would like to see maybe F2K and friends actually punish Rezus a little bit if he goes behind those pillars, maybe try to have Trille port on top of him and maybe leg sweep him and drop a frozen orb onto him.
This is one of those points where you start to ask yourself the question, yes, as far as compositions are concerned, it doesn't seem like the right play, but you just throw your hands up and say, hey, we got to bring in what we are most comfortable with.
Well, for F2K and friends, this composition and their strategy is really good if they had a Restoration Druid. So instead of the Mistweaver Monk, you bring in a Restoration Druid. Now you have all of a sudden more control onto Rezus with the Cyclones. You also have the heal over time effect. So if you do get locked out or you do get crowd controlled, your mage is at least getting additional healing during those times, unlike the Mistweaver Monk, as well as having better late game with the mana. But unfortunately, this team, they do not have the Resto Druid, and that's really where the diversity of your healers comes into such a big play, or such a big factor for these teams. If you have the Resto Druid, all of a sudden you're in a good situation. Without it, though, this is looking really scary for them.
That is a seed as well that we believe will grow into many trees a little bit later on in today. We can expect to see a lot of Resto Druids, but here in this series, we do not expect to see it. It is F2K against Team Bronze Troll. The question is our first series of the day going to be a quick 3-0? We're going to find out right after this. even during that break, we missed you a whole bunch. It feels darn good to be back after that long break after BlizzCon. So many things changing, and ultimately in the first series, I don't think we necessarily expected it to potentially be a 3-0, which we may have on our hands, but we didn't expect to see a lot of these players, and they're not strangers to us at all, but they're not people that we saw in the competitive spotlight for quite a bit of time. So let's talk about these teams and what we actually think of their rosters. We've talked about the compositions quite a bit. Let's start with F2K as they do. Oh, okay, we're going to see
There
Hydra.
you go.
So let's start by talking about Hydra.
Well, Hydra, of course, is no stranger to the WoW community. He's been playing this game forever. He's one of the few people who is still, older than me and playing this game. So it's going to be fun to see him now on the big stage playing that Discipline Priest. With his team's back against the wall, can he bring it back and give F2K a fighting chance here?
He needs to right now, or we are going to see his squad completely buried under the sands of Tolvaron. Team Bronze Troll looking to close it out here with a 3-0 in the lower bracket.
It's interesting that Hydra is not running Power Word Solace, instead going for Mindbender, which might mean a more passive play at the pillar game, and we have to see if he can out-dampen the Destruction Warlock, which teams have done in the past, but it can take quite a lot of dampening to potentially pull it off, and with the aggression that Team Bronze Troll have had and look to set up here and now, I'm not sure if they can last that long, Ven.
Yeah, one of the scary things about the Discipline Priest is, Flynn taking a little bit of damage in the meantime, but one of the scary things about the Discipline Priest is when Flynn is trying to cross the map, if he moves from one of these pillars to another, Hydra will get caught in midfield, doesn't have the same sort of mobility as the Mistweaver Monk. You can see Hydra now crossing preemptively, might use the life grip onto Flynn, and now they are in a much better position. So this is what's going to happen. Hydra's going to have to make that leap first and potentially help out Flynn with that leap of faith talent and the feathers to use that mobility. But if Hydra gets caught in the midfield, there's actually an opportunity for Team Bronze Troll to swap to him, unlike the Mistweaver Monk.
Yeah, they do gain some extra crowd control bringing in that Discipline Priest, which actually managed to get a defensive cooldown, at least from Infernion, which is a lot more than they've got for basically the entire series. But now Infernion's still low health, the pressure a lot higher with Hydra in the arena. Is he going to be the X factor in bringing his team back in what would have to be a reverse sweep, a 3-0? Can Hydra pull that off? 3 wins in a row for his team against such a devastating composition. Another double leg sweep, though, as Rezus looks to set up. Infernion follows it up, gets incapacitated by Trilly. Good shutdown by Trilly.
Yeah, Hydra Flynn, line of sighting right now. Rezus still trying to generate some pressure. Finally, Infernion in a position where he can find some damage. Trying to look for a Chaos Bolt. Flynn needs to get out of line of sight once again. Earthen Shield Totem gets dropped out by Lontar. Infernion's going to be very tanky. Basically a turret in this spot where he's not going to be able to be taken down, but he can deal a lot of damage. So F2K and friends, they need to reposition. Nice Ring of Peace coming in from Trille, preventing Infernion from staying on target.
Ooh, good double crowd control here by F2K and friends of the mind control on Rezus. Infernion completely alone and getting destroyed right now by Trille. Lontar forced to use that Spirit Link Totem. That's the first time he's had to use that in the entire series. I would say that this sub-in is starting to pay out here for F2K and friends. They may have wanted Hydra the entire series if they can keep this up.
Yeah, nicely done by Hydra. Pushes in for the Fear, gets a trinket from Infernion. He has no wall, so Infernion is actually very vulnerable in the situation. Flynn gets gripped away once again. The leg sweep coming in from Rezus. Good damage. Hydra able to spam out the heals with the Shadow Mends. That's one of the things about the Discipline Priest as well, is you have multiple schools of healing. So if you get interrupted on penance, you can use the Shadow Mend. He's not as vulnerable to the lockouts coming in from Infernion.
Yeah, Infernion's offense will be kind of shaved away a bit with that Discipline Priest swap up. The disadvantage you get is that mana bar, but they're ultimately even on mana. They're a lot more evenly matched in general between these two compositions. Infernion posted up here in midfield, trying to get some devastation going here with crowd control on both Hydra and Flynn. Flynn needs to get around that corner as soon as possible. Chaos Bolts are flying in. One connects. Flynn stays afloat for now. Rezus getting Nova behind the pillar. Actually uses Diffuse Magic to dispel Frost Nova. He's been using that defensive cooldown aggressively to stay on target. An interesting maneuver from the Windwalker Monk, but one that could be punished moving forward.
Yeah, Rezus as well as Trille, they're not going to be too vulnerable in this matchup, so I like that they're using the Diffuse Magic. Offensively, like Zico was kind of saying, it is up to Rezus to generate as much pressure as possible, especially when Infernion, he's just out of line of sight, just getting disable rooted from Trille over and over. Hydra now caught into the stun.
Beautiful.
Lontar and Hydra's mana relatively even. Fear coming out, but I think it actually did get tremored there, so nicely done by Lontar. Infernion getting a little low, but gets topped off. In the meantime, Flynn taking quite a bit of damage in line of sight with the Temporal Shield. Should get topped off. but Hydra really falling behind at this point in the game.
Yeah, they stacked on top of each other. Both Hydra and Flynn were just getting destroyed by Rezus as they stood in that Fists of Fury. Touch of Death activated by Rezus. He's trying to lead the charge for his team. Potentially huge burst here onto Flynn. It could be an ice block, and it will be immediately traded out. Hydra trying to get aggressive, feathering towards Lontar, looking for a Psychic Scream. He preemptively earthen walls. Good read by Lontar. That defense will protect Infernion, and now Infernion's defensives have rotated. Team Bronze Troll, it's the time to attack. They've got Fear and Crowd Control on the other entire team. Flynn potentially still in hypothermia and unable to use Ice Block. Can Hydra keep this going? Activates Rapture, powerful powered shields flying in. Flynn ducking for cover, trying to escape, but that Maledict's Chaos Bolt combo could be devastating. Flynn manages to blink to safety with some clutch polymorphs and stays alive.
Yeah, Infernion using the gateway, still playing aggressive in this matchup. Flynn, no blinks available, has to hold on a little bit longer. If he gets Ring of Peace back in line of sight, could be devastating for Flynn in this matchup. Hydra gets interrupted, taking a little bit of cleave from the Fist of Fury coming in from Rezus. Flynn and Hydra, they cannot be stacking up, or the Windwalker Monk will be able to tear through their defensives. Icy Veins gets used by Flynn, but he's getting low. Second Ice Block going to be traded out in the matchup, and Dampening has just kicked in.
Lontar cancels it and goes aggressive. Lontar trinkets, but Flynn is still on the back foot from that aggressive Ice Block cancel. Can Hydra keep him up? He gets spell locked. Infernion looking to shut this match out. Hydra ducks around the corner there with that pillar on the wall. Great positioning by Hydra to avoid crowd control, but Infernion pushes up. Hydra can't dodge it. Fear incoming. Flynn denies the fear to desperately stay alive. Will he be able to get out of line of sight? The barrier, I think he's like 1 inch out of that barrier. Flynn desperately needs that defense, but looks like he's going to survive regardless. Rezus defensively Psychic Screamed away. Infernion with not much defense left. Neither is Flynn. There's no mana left. Dampening has just started. It's still anyone's match.
Yeah, Incapacitate over onto Hydra. Flynn's still getting low. No Ice Block for quite some time. And I think with the mana situation for both of these healers, it's unlikely Flynn's going to be able to last another 4 minutes. Interrupt on Hydra. Another double stun coming in. Rezus really punishing the positioning from Hydra and Flynn as they are stacked up. Infernion right on top of them. Trill got feared away, and Infernion was able to chase. Double Mortal Coil coming in. Infernion gets kicked on the Chaos Bolt. Nicely done by Trilla. Still, Flynn and Hydra, they managed to hold on. You can see Hydra crossing the map once again. Flynn has been kind of left behind, but he's not in too much danger right now as long as he can line of sight Infernion.
Hydra's positioning great on this map. He's very far away, so he can use Life Grip to allow Flynn to escape to safety. That Infernal's going to come crashing down, and Infernion is going to start to ramp up insane Chaos Bolt damage here if they can't deny the Chaos Bolt. If they stop one, he's looking for some fake casts. They duck for cover. All three members potentially need to retreat. Infernion gets an offensive gateway into the enemy team to get right on top of them. He wants to close this out. Shadow Fury nailed, but not able to get in line of sight. Frozen Orb is slowing down the assault. Infernion needs to get some Chaos Bolts. Doesn't manage to get it. Gets denied by Trilly's Ring of Peace. Great denials onto Infernion by the entire team of F2K, but inevitably it may not matter here as Hydra has no mana left to keep this fight going. He's pulling penance after penance out of his pocket to keep this fight going, but that Life Grip will allow Flynn to get to safety for now, but a Chaos Bolt is chasing him. Temporal Shield will bounce him back. Lontar is in desperation with mana. Really, right now, I'd love to see a swap to Rezus behind the pillar potentially, but at this point, they're just not going for it. They keep going after Infernion, but they're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I really want to see Rezus put some pressure on Hydra if he can in this matchup. Good. He's getting the double cleave out right now. I think Hydra is a good target, especially when he's completely They just need to make sure he stays So if Rezus is having a difficult time staying on Flynn, I think they can swap around a little bit at this point in the game. We're at 16% Dampening. Full Sheep on Lontar. He actually trinkets out. Infernion very vulnerable. DR Sheep coming in onto Lontar as well. The Earthen Shield Totem should be enough to keep Infernion alive, but a nice Ring of Peace from Trille. Double Coil coming in. Infernion doing everything he can to survive in this situation. Hydra getting low. He's locked out, caught in midfield. Chaos Bolt's going to be cast out, gets interrupted.
Hydra.
Very nicely done, and here's the swap onto Hydra. Rezus trying to keep him in line of sight with that Ring of Peace, but Hydra manages to escape for a second.
Lontar trying to get on top of Hydra as well, potentially for his team to get aggressive, but he left Infernion behind. It's Infernion versus Flynn in midfield. Who will fall first, Hydra or Infernion? Neither team has mana, but Hydra gets the double fear. Infernion all alone in center field and potentially able to clutch this game out. Touch of Death is about to tick and could be the final countdown. Spirit Link saves him, but Rezus is not inside. It may not be enough. Infernion barely hanging on. Hydra hanging on barely as well. How much longer can they keep it going? Polymorph secured. Hydra, this could be a 2-on-2 here very shortly as Hydra gets interrupted. Rezus looks like he's going to be able to secure the kill, but gets denied by a Ring of Peace. Hydra barely hangs on. Infernion barely hangs on. Hydra's going to duck around the corner. Infernion does not have that same luxury, but Earthen Wall Totem should be enough. Dampening stacked up. Common Storm comes in. Hydra might just pull off a miracle.
Yeah, Hydra managing to survive, but the thing is, once they get off of Flynn, he's able to put out all this pressure, land the Polymorphs, get the Frostbolt damage that he needs, and if Frost Mages can free cast, their damage potential goes up by quite a bit. Hydra now caught into the leg sweep, taking still a decent amount of damage by Rezus, who's really
the
close
double.
out this game. Nice double interrupt. Lone Tar's there as well, gets caught in line of sight. Lone Tar looking to close out the game with the trinket, and unluckily for Hydra, he does get taken down. That was very nice offensive push coming in from Rezus.
That was a fantastic
Still playing it out.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty clear why they would. Pressure still very much on Infernion. Hopefully that totem going to be able to keep him up in the case of Lone Tar. But when we do look at this final game in the series, if you're going to have a 3-0 coming out like that for F2K, definitely going to be impressive. We see what they are able to do as we finally do see Flynn go down. That is going to close the book on that one. And at the end there, you look at this destruction, demolition derby where both cars run out of gas while they're going head to head. So Zico, I gotta ask you, what type of car is a Discipline Priest right now, and why are we able to see Hydra make so many plays from the driver's seat?
Honestly, just the Discipline Priest, if you stay ahead the entire match, you're a Ferrari. But if you fall behind, then it's, I don't know too many car models, but it's a slow car. The thing that I want to point out in that last part of the game where Infernion was very low, there was a full polymorph secured there on Lone Tar, and then Rezus, of course, was putting on that pressure on the other side there on Hydra, dragging him down to about 20%. I think Flynn should have gone for it there. He should have went for the re-poly onto Lone Tar. Instead, he goes back and tries to help Hydra survive, but you're not going to outlast the rest of Shaman with that Discipline Priest on your team. You should go for the all-in kill there and just pray that you win the 2v2 or that Hydra can fend for himself. Regardless, this was by far the best match in the series. I think that they should have brought out Hydra in the start. Could have been a different series.
Yeah, it definitely did look like a very different game. We see so many different opportunities where all of a sudden there is an offensive opportunity instead of just seeing Flynn get slapped around like we did in the previous 2 games. And that's going to be a big thing to pay attention to as we start to see more of these teams today. I think a lot of people, when you get back for the first time, obviously this is the first series that we are going to be looking at, they think that the meta is somewhat solved, right? Everybody thinks that there is going to be that right answer. We're going to figure out what the best plays are